Trying to find your happiness this winter? Let Fiji Airways fly you there direct. Whether you're sunbathing or snorkeling, dining or dreaming, you'll experience legendary Fijian hospitality. Expect the warmest of welcomes in this Pacific paradise. Unplug, unwind, and relax in your happy place, Fiji. Get great deals on direct flights to happiness at FijiAirways.com. That's FijiAirways.com. You deserve this. Go from here to happiness, flying direct with Fiji Airways.
Get great deals throughout the store at Safeway. This week at Safeway, get mega packs of bone-in USDA choice beef New York strip steaks for $5.97 per pound with digital coupon. Limit 2 packages. Plus, Haas avocados are 10 for $10. Member price. Also, this week at Safeway, mix or match 12 packs of 12-ounce cans or 8 packs of 12-ounce bottles of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, 7-Up, or Dr. Pepper are buy 2, get 3 free. Limit 3 free items. Member price plus CRV. Visit Safeway.com or head in store for more deals.
Hi, this is Lori Johnson with Hancock Whitney Bank, and you're listening to Local Leaders, the podcast. Visit localleadersthepodcast.com for previous episodes or for information on appearing on the show.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Local Leaders, the podcast. And if you're like me and most people in this area, you're freaking out over electric bills right now, right? Every time I go to the mailbox and I see that bill in the mail, I don't want to open it. I want to just like put it out of my mind, put it away. This is most people in this area right now. It's a hot topic. So the host that I am, I got the best solar company I could find to come on the show and talk about not only the benefits of solar, but how solar can actually save you money, especially in the long run when it comes to your bills, specifically energy bills. So I'm going to let all of these folks, because as you can see on camera, we've got a lot of them on the show today. I'm going to go around the room, have them introduce themselves and kind of tell you their role in the company Jayco Solar. So we'll start over here.
Okay. Well, my name is Jane Huddleston, and I have a lot of roles within the company.
It's true.
Yeah. So I would say that I was really the first full-timer, and so I answer phones, I talk to customers, I design the solar systems, the solar arrays plus battery backup. I do all the design. Like I said, I talk to customers, and
you're a jack of all trades,
all
basically.
All the trades. All the things.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
And you, sir, tell us all about your great roles in the company and your name and all that.
I don't have as many as Jane. Jane is the MVP of our team here.
Yes.
So my name is Brent Mangum, and I oversee all the sales. So I try to be, one of the first points of contact for the customer. Try to build a relationship with them. Explain just a little bit about solar and set up a conversation for the future where we can really sit down and get down to the nuts and bolts, quite literally, of what a solar panel array looks like on their home, solar battery backup system looks like on their home, what it means, and really build out that relationship that's from the get-go.
Very good. And you, sir?
Yeah, my name is Jacob Huddleston, and my primary role is to support Jane doing all of the things. So,
and y'all have the same last name, so
yes.
you must be married, right?
We
are.
Very good.
I love working with my wife. She's very competent, and she probably working with me, maybe not so much.
I hear you. Well, they are. Look, they make us look good constantly, right?
That's right.
So in your role in the company is.
So I do a little bit of everything as well. Everything from working with our subcontractors to contracts to suppliers to really everything.
Very good.
So really overseeing the process that then takes place when we have a customer.
Awesome. And I'll tell everybody that's listening and watching, when I first met these folks, Jacob is like a dictionary of solar. And for a guy like me who is I love getting information, especially about things I'm not that familiar with. Solar, I had that layman's knowledge of it, probably 99% of the people out there.
Yeah, you're right.
And within an hour, I felt like a solar genius. I was like, man, I've sucked up all this guy's knowledge, or at least 1/10 of it. And so that was really nice to experience. And that's what we're here today to talk about. One of the things I mentioned to these folks before they came on was that I had a lot of you reach out and basically supply me with more questions than I can handle on solar, which these folks are excited and they love to hear that. And so today we're gonna kind of feature some of those and do a little question and answer format. But before I get into all that solar stuff and all the great things y'all can do to help people in many different ways, there's an interesting story as what led to Jayco Solar even coming into existence here. So Brent, why don't you take this one? I want you to tell me kind of that story.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's a great story. A couple of things happened right at the same time. So Jacob had somebody in his sphere of influence come to him and say, hey, we want to do this. We want to do this solar company. And the model that they were going to follow, so there's this thing in solar called net metering. And if you don't know what net metering is where the energy company pays you back solar energy that you don't use for your home if you have solar panels.
Sounds like a great deal already.
Right. It's a great deal. The only problem is it depends on where you live.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some parts of the country where if you go there, they'll pay you for what you paid it for. Right. So it makes a lot of sense to get solar. Fortunately, that doesn't exist in Louisiana. They just pay you a fraction of what you paid for it. Right.
Right.
So what that
Talk
means,
to your legislature.
exactly.
Right.
Absolutely. What that means for solar, folks that are interested in solar in the area is, they may get a better deal if they go elsewhere. So what that also means is you won't find a whole lot of solar companies here in Louisiana because it doesn't make them a lot of money like it does in other places.
Right.
So this company was going to follow the model of going places where that was going to be financially beneficial for them, where they could sell that and make that net metering package 100% part of their package and part of their sales process.
Sure.
So for that reason, Jacob decided to go in another direction. That's where I came into the process. Around that same time, so Jacob and I, we've been friends for a long time, and we had another friend, and between these three friends, there were 10 kids.
Yeah.
And we decided that we were going to go and take our kids and leave the wives at home and give them just some alone time, much deserved alone time.
Absolutely. I
Right,
mean,
so
they're with us all the time.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
So we took these three dads, took these 10 kids out to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and we ended up in this cabin. And it just so happened that this cabin was 100% powered by solar, not just panels, but a total battery backup system. So
Now that's cool.
There was no risk of losing power unless you're just consuming a ton of power.
Yeah.
And it was those sort of two things that combined that led us to this process of like, wow, we may have something here within Louisiana.
Wow, man, that's cool.
So we thought about all these people, everybody in this room has been through, and everybody listening has probably been through a storm in which like they've lost power and how uncomfortable and how miserable that can be.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was
I
the
got
start.
great stories
we
on
just
that
sort
one.
of like went down this path, and it's been awesome.
Very interesting. So you guys go on this trip, and I'm kind of putting myself in y'all's place. First of all, Blue Ridge Mountains, beautiful place. Check this out. The whole thing's running completely pretty much off the grid.
Yeah.
I would imagine if I went home and I went to my spouse and I said, hey, check this out. I got an idea for a solar company.
Yeah, I would say that, yes, it was a little bit like that. So we started having conversations about how solar is the future and how we wanted to be part of the solar industry going forward. But the big question was, how do we make it work in Louisiana the way that it works in other states with better net metering? Our customers around here, if they're not getting as good of a credit from the energy company for all the power that they're sending back to the grid, how do we make it worth it? How do we hold on to that extra energy? And so that's really how the conversation started was, all right, if we're going to do this, then we need to find good battery options. And, how do we make it worthwhile for our customers? Because it can be a big investment, to get these big solar arrays on your house, especially if you're going to add batteries, it's a big investment. So really, it was just a conversation that started. And then once we realized, like, okay, this is possible, we can make this work, it was just a matter of putting all the pieces together and finding the right people to partner with and making sure that we had all of that in order.
All of those pieces have to fall into place. You have to have the right people, as you just mentioned. Love it that you mentioned that, because an idea or a business plan without the right people in place to execute it, it could be a disaster, even if it's a great thing, So you obviously did your homework, you familiarized yourself with the solar industry, and then you executed it, which is a phenomenal thing in and of itself. Now, when it comes to solar, there are like multitudes of questions, which obviously is what this podcast is all about. We want to basically give a format where people can answer them. The first thing that comes to mind, and you touched on that, is the cost, the investment. You may be surprised there's a whole nother side to that you may not be focused on. So, Jacob, I'm going to role play with you for a minute. Sure. I'm going to be Mr. Customer. What do you say to a potential client when you meet with them and they bring that up, the affordability?
Well, first off, you got to buy your electricity one way or another. You're already going to incur this cost. And so as everybody knows right now, energy costs have gone up considerably recently. Yes. And you just don't know, right? And so it's not as though that solar is a new bill for you. It's actually replacing something that you've already got to buy. And so it's really about what's the most cost-efficient way to power my home. And is it just staying connected to the grid and buying from Dimco or Entergy or whoever? Or are alternative sources, have they caught up, and are they cheaper and more affordable, or do they provide more benefit, right? And the answer to that is overwhelmingly yes. With solar and some battery backup, you can replace most of your electricity bill. You can replace a whole home generator. You can do a lot of things of a lot of costs with a lot of features that really make a lot of sense. And so we're not necessarily bringing a new cost to you. We are bringing a potentially cheaper source of your electricity to you.
That's right. Sandra Richard has been in the business of selling homes for over 20 years. This award-winning realtor brings the perfect blend of professionalism, integrity, and client satisfaction to every buying and selling transaction. A passion for both her clients and her community makes Sandra the perfect choice when buying or selling your home. So if you're in need, call the Cajun Lady, Sandra Richard, at 225-955-5484, or visit her on the web at sandrasellshouses.com. Sandra Richard, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. And actually dead on target, because you're not adding an expense, you're replacing an expense with actually an investment. Because one thing you can't get from Dimco or Energy or whoever you get your electricity from is something for your money. You get the electricity that you're using, but at the end of you not paying that company anymore, there's nothing there that's yours, right? You're effectively buying these batteries and you're buying these panels, and so they're yours. You own them after you're done paying for them, and you're going to pay an electric bill the rest of your life, whether it's solar or electricity. With solar, there's an end point to that. With electricity, there's not. You're just going to pay it forever. So that's something to consider in my mind.
And you're right. You're replacing one cost with the other.
Yeah.
And I would speak for all of us when I say the cost that we're going to come at you with is going to be a lot cheaper than what you'll pay your electricity bill over the next 20 years. And that's kind of how you have to look at it. But the other added benefit to it is, in addition to replacing this with the lower cost that you're already going to pay your electric bill, is all of us have been through the misery. Everybody listening likely has been through the misery that a power outage will cause in August in Louisiana. And having that as an addition of like, look, when that time comes around, I'm going to have power so that I can go over to my cousin's house or my neighbor's house and, potentially clean up a tree from their yard. And being able to do that sense of security and peace is something that is really easy to explain to our customers a lot of times.
You get a little more security when those storms are coming and things like that when you're solar equipped. So, Jane, I'm going to ask you a question now. With the cost of electricity, obviously, as we've been discussing, looking into solar as an alternative is becoming more and more common. What would you list outside of saving money as far as the benefits of solar?
So we've touched on some of the benefits already with going solar. So yes, there is the saving money aspect, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. There's an environmental aspect that there's very little footprint, I guess you'd say, on the generation of the electricity that's coming from the sun.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's a green alternative.
And some of our customers are very concerned about environmental impact, and so that is maybe the initial reason why they're interested in going solar. You also can find a benefit in going solar when you have a battery backup, because you're essentially replacing the need for a generator. When the power goes down, you're still going to have access to that solar power that's being generated on your roof.
It's like your own generator.
It's like your own generator. Yeah. Now, some customers still have a generator that is connected, wired into the inverter, because our hybrid inverters are
amazing
products. And so, I would say environmental and...
Need a winter holiday escape? Forget your cares in Fiji. White sand beaches and scuba diving are calling. Your tropical paradise getaway is just one nonstop Fiji Airways flight away. With round-trip fares starting at $899 from LAX or SFO. Or check out great fares to Australia and New Zealand with seamless connections via Fiji. Book now at FijiAirways.com. From here to happiness, flying direct with Fiji Airways.
Having access to that battery backup are two really huge benefits.
They really are. And Jacob, I want to go back to you for a second. And one thing I found interesting in our first talk was your business model. So a lot of solar companies focus just on panels. Let's just put it that way. They're gonna pop some panels on your roof, and thank you very much. And hopefully everybody's happy. But y'all provide a very heavy emphasis on battery aspects of solar. Obviously there's an extra investment there. So how would you educate a customer as to the importance of the battery backup and how the investment isn't outweighing the benefit of having it?
Sure. So Brent mentioned how in Louisiana we don't have that nice net metering policy. Louisiana used to be a very solar friendly state.
It sure did.
Used to have net metering, used to have a great tax credit. The tax credit disappeared, and then the net metering got vastly reduced. And so I think he explained, but net metering just means the same price that you pay per kilowatt hour from the electric company. If you're backfeeding the grid from the power you're generating from your house, the electric company gives you a credit 1-to-1, right?
Right.
That's no longer in place in Louisiana. So as of end of 2019, the electric companies still purchase at full price. You sell back at it's the official title is the avoided cost rate, which is a floating average that gets reset every year and has a nice complicated formula to it.
Right.
But it's maybe 20%, right? So right now you're probably paying 12 or 13 cents a kilowatt hour, and you're going to get paid about 3 cents a kilowatt hour, right?
Wow.
So if you put solar up on your house, solar is an intermittent energy source. So in other states that have net metering, the idea is in that what they call the solar window, you want to create 100% or 90% of your usage, and you just send it all to the electric company, and they roll your meter backwards, and then you roll it forwards when the sun goes down, and you've built up that credit. Well, that doesn't really work in Louisiana because your credit is so small compared to the price that you're going to pay. So, but you don't pay anything for the power that you generate yourself and consume yourself. So the idea was, all right, we generate that large source of power, but instead of sending it to the grid and not getting paid for it, let's capture it, hold on to it in a battery bank, and when the sun goes down, let's use the power out of the battery bank first, so that everything that your solar produced, you're getting the offset and not having to pull from the grid. So you get the full value of the power that you produced. Just one comment. When we talk about battery banks, some people probably remember a bunch of lead acid car batteries being strung together. That is not what we're talking about.
Right.
I mean, if people
The technology has
It-
totally
Yes.
flipped on that deal.
It's come a long
Way
way.
better.
Way better. Long way. Tesla kind of, with their Powerwall, pushed a whole new world, and there's a lot of companies that have jumped in, and Jane will know a whole lot more about some of those companies than I do. But it's a really neat proposition, and that's when we say, hey, the solar is not real great in Louisiana, and you don't see a whole lot of people. Used to be that there were door-to-door salesmen for solar all over, right?
Yeah.
We don't take that approach, but our whole concept is it's got to work in Louisiana with our current situation, right? If you throw a bunch of solar on a roof without really taking that into consideration, you may not be bringing your customer a whole lot of benefit.
You're 100% right. You're basically taking that electricity instead of sending it to Demco or Energy or whoever and getting paid peanuts, nothing for it. I mean, it would take you forever to recoup that. Right. You're storing it in your own little suitcase, and then at nighttime when the sun goes down, you're using it. That's right. And I like that idea. To me, if you're in Louisiana and you're even thinking about solar, definitely get the batteries. No doubt about it in my mind. It is a little bit more investment, but you're buying it. Once you pay for it, they're yours to keep. Brent, I want to talk to you about something here. And there are some things that you folks at Jayco Solar are really good at, and that's educating the potential customer on all things solar, as Jacob just did. One of the things is you do an initial meeting where you can review like current electric bills, things like that. And the benefit of that meeting is you can show the customer exactly how solar is going to, or pretty close to how solar is going to benefit them. You even take it as far as to offer Zoom calls on your website. That's pretty cool. So people that like me, they're going in 900 different directions, and you can do a Zoom. You don't necessarily have to be face to face. Take me through the process, like if you're going to do a meeting with someone.
Yeah, well, it could go so many different ways. Every person is different. Every home is different. So if I have somebody that really doesn't want to be around other people for, sanitary reasons, then we offer that Zoom call. Or if they, just have a busy schedule like all of us do, then that Zoom call is available also. But typically, if somebody reaches out to us or we get in contact with somebody who just wants to ask questions, we're ready to answer those questions and present our products and our services as options and how those products and services would benefit them financially in the event of an outage, or maybe somebody just wants to go off grid because they're a doomsday prepper. Yeah. And there's a lot more of those out there.
Oh yeah. We're going to talk about that a little bit.
I initially thought, but what we take a lot of pride in, as opposed to maybe other companies that are chasing after these tax credits or, stimuli program or whatever the case may be, is we take the time that they need to educate, because we all started at ground one too. Like our first job, all of us were out there turning screwdrivers and drills and putting panels on. And so this was a learning process for us. So we learned from step one, just like everybody else would.
And I'm glad you put it that way, because the best way to learn how to sell a product that you believe in is remember back when you didn't know anything about it. Too many people in any type of sales job or someone who offers a service, too many times they forget what it's like not to know anything about it. My previous life, I was a paint salesman, and people would ask me questions and I'd be like, how could you not know that? I was kind of like the aggravating computer guy that's like, get out of the way. And they take the mouse and do all those things. In my mind, I would think that, and then I'd catch myself and I'd say, wait a minute, I eat, breathe, and everything else paint. Nobody else does. I was kind of a paint geek. So I had to keep in mind those questions that I would have had before I knew anything about paint. Same thing with solar. And y'all do a great job of remembering back when, I'm sure there was a time you didn't know about solar, right?
Yeah.
And
absolutely. And one thing to think about solar is, when somebody buys a solar panel system, they're not going to replace that for a good 20 to 30 years. Yeah. And so the idea of repeat customers is very different than what you would see from a lumber salesman or a paint salesman.
That's a great point.
Or any of those industries out there. And so the way that affects us and the relationship between us and the customer is when somebody does business with us, we make sure that every single question is answered, because when it comes down to, if they have a question or a problem, like they're probably going to run into us at Rouse's or at Pards or at Bass Pro, and they're going to know that we're 15, 20 minutes away, that we have kids in the same schools, that we shop in the same areas. We're all from Louisiana.
Local folks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's very rare that we meet with a customer in the very first meeting, there's a contract signed.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot to process. It's a lot to learn about. And every home is different. Every home is insulated different. And every user is different, And so we take a lot of pride in knowing that when the deal is done, it's going to be done to the exact specifications that they're going to get the most bang for their buck, and they're going to be 100% comfortable with the process.
Love it.
I want to speak on that topic too. So because every system is customized, we talked about how every home is different, every family is different, their usage needs are different. Every house is going to have a different consumption, I don't know what to call that, but like a different amount of yearly consumption that they are trying to offset. And so, we go in and we look at the kilowatt usage for every month. We put it into our software. We look at the roof line for that family, for that home. And we try to calculate exactly the best placement for the panels, the right number of panels to offset their needs and goals. And, we look at budget too. We look at all of the different factors to try and make the right system for that family. We're not trying to push a certain way. This is how we do it. And this is, the only way we do it. We try to find the right products, the right size, the right system for each family.
BJ Pawn and Gun in Denham Springs wants to buy your unwanted gold jewelry, gold coins, and gold bullion. With 30 years of experience operating in the Livingston Parish area, BJ Pawn wants to be your source when selling your gold. So stop by BJ Pawn today for a no-obligation offer. BJ Pawn, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. I love it. And it sounds to me like you look out for the customer.
Yeah.
Trying to.
We go so far as to saying, all right, if you lose power, what in your home is essential that you have to run, right? And we figure out what the power consumption use is, what your amperage pool on that is. Can we run your central AC? We ensure that if you need a soft start kit to make sure you can get the amperage on your AC going, we make sure we can meet the amperage load. We go through a very detailed analysis of their home and their usage and make sure that they understand what their system can do and what they should expect out of it, and that we're meeting what their goals are.
Wow.
And that it's a pretty extensive process, as Brent was explaining, but we want to make sure we're meeting their needs and that we set their expectation and understand what the system can do, because it's a little bit like if you're in an outage and you have your hot tub wired up to your battery system, well, you're going to use your power pretty quick, and you're going to be waiting for the sun to come back up to recharge it if you're in an outage. So we have to shed loads if they're not a critical load, things like that. But all of the loads can continue to benefit from the solar during the day. It's what do you want in an outage situation? Do we need to shed loads in an outage? And we figure all that out for them. So.
Yeah, that's a great point, because you might be dealing with an elderly couple where maybe the wife or the husband is on oxygen or something like that, or what are those PAP machines or whatever they have now that a lot of people use for sleep apnea. So maybe it's just critical that they have that and a few other things running refrigerators, things like that. Or maybe it's someone that is like, look, I'm not going to be without the hot tub. You know what I mean? Well, that's fine. We can make that happen. But there are some medical necessities that, look, if you're listening to this and you have anything that runs in your house that is medically necessary, and I would highly encourage you to look into solar, because things happen and things go out, and that could be, a scary situation if you're just relying on, I don't know, I guess you'd call it normal electricity or standard electricity to run those things, because they go out, you go out, right?
One thing I don't think we've mentioned is that if you just have solar on your house and the power goes down, your solar goes down.
Yeah.
They don't allow you to backfeed the grid because there may be a lineman out there working on it, right? So there's an emergency shutoff. We use a hybrid inverter that basically islands off your house, and you capture that in a battery, right? And so that's one of the reasons why it's so different from just traditional solar. If somebody knocks on your door and they want to just put a simple array on your home, the power goes out, that array is not going to produce in an outage. No.
And believe it or not, people would assume if you have solar, your power never goes out.
Yeah, right.
All the time.
That's why those battery backups are important.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And we'll do solar only projects too.
Right.
We don't require customers to do a battery backup system. In fact, for business owners that work 8 to 5 during those solar windows, it's actually really beneficial, because the time when we go home from night or come home from football practice or whatever the case may be, like, we need lots of power to do laundry, to run the dishwasher, to run the oven, so forth and so on. But an 8 to 5 business owner, it's actually a really good.
The sun's up the whole time.
Right. The sun's up the whole time. So solar only is actually a really, really good option for a business owner that just wants to reduce their operational costs.
Well, and it's funny because you just led me into my next question. Very good. Which is businesses. So do you only do residential, or will you do commercial businesses as well?
We'll do both.
Very good.
And there's lots of benefits and incentives out there for business owners that aren't available for residences, but I will kick it over to this guy. So Jacob is our research expert. So Jacob does a lot for the company that's forward thinking. Like, if new products come out there, Jane and Jacob are on there, but Jacob is like the research expert.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
All right. So we totally will do commercial and residential. There is a difference in what financing options are available to you. But the benefits, the tax credits, are better for commercial than they are for residential.
Really? I didn't know that.
So a commercial is entitled to, they can get the exact same credit, the 30%, it's now 30%, that a residential homeowner can get, but there's also an accelerated depreciation that they can take on the panels, plus a bonus depreciation that they can take on the panels. And so at the end of all the tax credits, it takes you get the 30% initially, and then you get to depreciate the system over 5 years, and a bonus depreciation in the first year. So at the end of all of the tax benefits, you end up paying as a business about 50% of the cost, and your other 50% you got back in tax credits.
Wow.
And then you add on top of that, you're
no-brainer.
reducing that operational cost.
And then you're saving on electrical.
Yeah.
So the return on the investment is faster for a business.
Very, very nice. And Jane, I'm going to ask you something here. So we talked about electric bills and all of the shock that people have when they open up that envelope, specifically if you go solar, and will you still have an electric bill, or do you completely shut off your, do you call Demco and say, I got panels now? What's the process there?
Yeah. So whenever you put a solar array on your house, in order to take advantage of any net metering, you have to apply for an interconnection agreement through your utility. So when you have that interconnection agreement in place, then you're able to send, your extra power to Entergy. So yes, you would be getting a credit, but whether or not you have a bill at the end of the month is going to depend on how much you produce, whether it's more than your consumption or not, and whether your credit is large enough to cover anything that you are pulling from the utility. So again, it depends. Some of our customers just want to lower their bill, so maybe they are producing 50% of what they consume on a yearly basis. And so in that case, you would expect to have at least a 50% of your utility bill still there. If you're able to put enough solar on your house or a ground mount system on your property so that you're able to produce more than you're using, you may have a negative bill. We have a customer who's had -$7, -$11 bills.
And they're loving it a bit.
Yeah, she's loving it. She's, been raving to all of her friends about how happy she is. They're having $700 bills, her neighbors, and hers is -7. So she's been really happy about that. But that's not the case for everyone. It just depends. Sometimes you have to watch, like, okay, am I using more than I'm producing? Okay, maybe I need to scale back on what I'm using if the goal is to have a zero or negative bill. I would say most of our customers would expect to have at least some kind of a bill. Like there's usually a connection fee.
Yeah.
And then if you're pulling from the grid more than you are offsetting, then you would have a bill.
Very good. And you actually led me into another question that I got asked from one of the social media peeps, and that was, do you have to put them on your roof?
Depends on your property. A lot of the residents in Livingston Parish, there's a lot of residents who have 1, 2, 10-acre properties.
Yeah.
In that scenario, there's plenty of space to put a structure near your house. We call it a ground mount system, where you can mount the panels there so that they're facing due south at the angle that's most beneficial. And so you can put your solar array exactly where you want it and have as much solar there as works for your home. Some of our customers don't want to have penetrations in their roof, and so they opt for the ground mount instead. But sometimes you don't have that option. You don't have a big yard, and so it really is the best thing to put it on your roof in that scenario.
William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance in Denham Springs can service all of your insurance needs. Offering auto, life, health, and commercial insurance, William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance is a proud supporter of Local Leaders, the podcast. Now, Brent, I want to ask you something else here, and I want to talk about the benefits of having solar should you sell your home. So I actually had someone reach out, and they said, it's not my forever home. Eventually, I want to get something else. And what scared them about solar was, I'm making that investment, and I may only be there another 5 years. So what say you to someone like that?
Yeah, well, this happens fairly often. I think it's just a misconception in some ways. So solar will actually add value to your property.
Yes, it will.
It will add value to your property, and according to some study that was done by Zillow, 2 years ago or so, and you can look this study up. This is so solar panels or anything solar related to your house will actually help you sell your home about 90 days faster on average.
There you go.
And then
it's like a pool or anything else. I mean, it's an added benefit, right? And if someone's looking for that, they're probably going to buy that house over one that didn't have it, because then they got to get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, like if you've been through a storm again, come into a house where my electric bills are going to be low, and in the event when September Labor Day rolls around and we have the hurricane, or heaven forbid we have another flood like we did in 2016, we're going to have some protection from that and have some peace of mind.
That's right. And so I'll ask you the second part of that question, which is, can you technically take those batteries with you and those panels with you if you move?
So yeah, there's a lot of solar companies out there that will do a leasing program, which means you are renting these solar panels. And there's some benefits to that. We don't do that. So when you do business with us, all that equipment is yours. So you can take that with you. It's actually a really simple process. You just have to have the right people to know what they're doing. And we have built relationships with all of those folks. So if you're moving to another place, both in or out of state, you just take that equipment apart and take it with you, and then we'll help you install it wherever you move.
It's a lot easier just to sell it with the home, take the extra value.
Sure.
But your home's going to go up it's a home improvement project. If you compare it to, say, putting in a new bathroom or a new kitchen, the ROI on adding solar is better than almost any other home improvement project
really
you can do.
That's interesting,
because it's a sort of a tangible, it's an asset versus just a liability almost. It's going to eliminate a bill associated with the home, right?
Right.
So a buyer has to look at it. I'm buying this house that has a lower electric bill than the next door neighbor's house, right? So there's more value there. So that's you could take your batteries with you. Batteries can be quite expensive, and you can choose to maybe leave the solar. If you happen to have a loan out on the solar, you could take the extra increased equity in your home and just pay it off. We have one lender who will allow you to assign your solar loan. Let's assume you did a 20-year solar loan with us, right? And you sell in year 5. It depends on the lender a little bit, but one of our lenders will let you just say, all right, I'm going to assign that to the buyer. They pick up the tab on that, and they come into a deal where they have 15 years left, and they've had 5 years paid for, and they negotiate whatever that is in the price, and you can work it out. There's a lot of options. You're not, you can take parts with you. You can sell it with the house. It's not a hurdle, and it doesn't prohibit you from selling in any way.
Jane, I'm going to ask you another one. So you mentioned, Mr. Brent, the zombie apocalypse and the possibility of that. And wow, there's a lot of preppers here. I never realized. Let's talk about that for a minute. You can effectively go completely off the grid where everything is running off solar, technically.
Yes, you can. Wow. You have to, make sure that you are careful about your load management, like Jacob said, and you want to make sure that you're producing enough to meet your needs. We want to take all of these factors into consideration. But yes, if your ultimate goal is to be off grid, it is possible. And, we can help you
go completely
figure
off.
It out, and it's not going to be possible for everyone.
Sure.
You have to meet the right conditions and be willing to be careful about your electric usage. Just because you have solar doesn't mean it's like a blank check for using as much electricity as you want. You still want to make sure that your usage is within the production.
Yeah.
But it's definitely possible. And we just make sure that the battery bank that we design and put into place for that home is going to meet their needs, through the night, or maybe they want to have multiple days worth of kilowatt battery backup in the bank, so that if it's a cloudy day, if there's a storm and their solar's not producing as much, they have that security blanket, a security bank of battery power to be able to get them through those stormy days. So, and if you wanted to be completely off grid, you want to make sure that there's enough power there to meet those goals and needs.
Very good point. But certainly a possibility.
Yeah, definitely.
I would imagine. And there's a lot of people in this area that,
more than you might
they ain't wanting to rely on anybody, and I get it. I'm somewhat that way. Obviously, in Louisiana, we're unique in that we have a lot more disasters, Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, and Texas, than anybody in the country, as far as we have to worry every hurricane season about specifically electricity due to storm problems. So, while you don't necessarily get all the tax benefits you may get living in another state, but that can change, right? Your people tell them, that's right. We all have legislators that make laws and write those guys and say, hey man, you need to look into this, or lady. All of that being said, we're in a unique situation where we live, in that it's not a requirement, but it's definitely something everybody should consider and get all the information. Watch this podcast, talk about it with your family, and see if it's something you think may benefit you, because you'd be shocked to know y'all don't charge to meet with people and give them information.
Yeah, we offer free consultations.
Free
Absolutely.
consultations. So there's no cost to sitting down with these folks, and they'll review with you, like we talked about earlier. And I think that's a huge part. You can't make an educated decision without having all the information, in my opinion.
Certainly there are roadblocks for certain properties. If you have a big tree blocking your south-facing roof space, like that might be a problem. You if you want to keep the tree, you may not have the best roof line for solar if you have a lot of shade on your house. I mean, and certain situations, like the direction that your house is facing, or if you live in an HOA where the best place for solar is the front part of your roof and it's facing the street, and your HOA has really strict rules about that.
Do they restrict those, some of them?
Sometimes they'll fight it. And it doesn't mean that you absolutely can't put solar on your house. It just means that we might have to
get inventive with it a little bit.
Well, or just submit an application to the HOA, or explain this is the only place that I can put solar, or this is the most efficient place for my home. I mean, Jacob, you can speak to that a little bit.
You nailed it exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's just a process sometimes you have to go through to, but yeah, we can help you figure out if it works on your property really quite quickly. We have some really neat software programs that, will help us figure all that out really quick. So,
love it. And let me ask you this, Jacob, let's talk warranties for a minute. So somebody's sold on it. They love everything to do with solar, but they're a little concerned about the warranty aspect. What are the warranties on the systems that you deal with, and the batteries and all of that?
Sure. So all of the solar modules, panels that we put on homes have 25-year production warranties, right? So it'll be a guarantee of it will produce at a certain efficiency. In 25 years, it'll still be at, say, 80% of its original.
Wow. That's better than my cell phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt about it.
So you got 25-year warranty because they're really made to last 25 to 35 years, right? And so if you have a problem before then, there's a warranty. And these warranties are typically backed up by large insurance companies because everybody's always worried, all right, a solar company pops up. A solar manufacturer pops up. I've never heard of. Most of this stuff comes out of China. We try to focus on American-made products, and we can offer you an entire American-made system, but it's going to be a little more expensive, right?
Sure.
So you get to pick and choose, but a lot of the foreign manufacturers will actually purchase policies that support their warranty system if they were to go under, right?
Right.
So they're pretty secure. And then, all right, so that's the panels, and then the batteries and inverters. You'll get a standard 10-year warranty, but the batteries are typically based off of cycles. You'll get like anywhere from, say, 3,000 to 8,000 cycles on your battery system, right? And 8,000 cycles, if you do the math, is like 20 years. So the battery technology has come a long way, and there's a lot of good companies and good products that are getting into this, and they can put some really strong warranties on it. Now, like you said, you can buy the Cadillac that has all the best warranties. It can be a little more expensive, and there are, other available options if that puts it outside your price range that are still really quality products.
Stephanie Berthelot and the crew at SR Enterprise can handle it all, from sheetrock to texture to paint. Give Stephanie a call at 504-432-9400 9284. SR Enterprise, where they spread the paint and you spread the word. Let's talk about cost a little bit. Look, there may be some guys out there and they're filthy rich and they got a pocket full of cash and they're ready to give it all to Jayco Solar to put them things on their roof, and he's ready for it. Yeah, he said, I'm here for you. But let's say it's, it's some peeps and they're like, man, I don't have that much cash. What options do those people have? Do you offer financing?
Yeah, I actually think that's one of our biggest deterrents, just from a perception standpoint. Like, people think about solar and like, well, that's for millionaires or that's for people with lots of discretionary income. And that doesn't define the majority of our population in Livingston Parish, in Louisiana, or anywhere across the country. And so one step that solar has taken over the past decade or so is there is financing available.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's lots of options out there. And the benefit of our company is when we sit down with you, we'll go over every single option with you and make you really comfortable with the process. So financing is absolutely available, just like you would finance a car or a home or anything else.
Yeah, or electricity.
Yes.
Which we finance now. It's just not called financing. It's just called paying your electric bill every month.
Majority of people are just renting their electricity.
Very good point. Yeah. That's right. And that's what, if I can hammer down anything for you folks today, it is that you are not adding a bill. You're not adding debt. As a matter of fact, you're likely subtracting all of that. So Dave Ramsey would love you. What you're actually doing is you are financing. If you finance, you're financing the same thing you're financing now, except for you're going to have something at the end of the day. And there's an end date to your finance contract. Right. There's not an end date to your electric contract.
Yeah. And whether the customer is most interested in getting the lowest monthly payment possible, or whether it's they want to pay like a lump sum up front and just have it pay for itself over time, depending on the customer and their goals, we can help. We have 10-year, 15-year, 20-year term options, and there's different options as well for the APR interest rate. So yeah, we will talk to you, our customer, about your goals. If you are wanting to get the lowest amount possible, we can, do like a cash deal that's a little bit better price. Or if you're wanting to finance and just try and get your monthly payment as low as possible, we can do that as well.
Yeah, very good. And I have a question for you. And I know, look, before the show, Jane said she wanted the most questions. So that's what she really did say that. But Jane, what I wanted to ask you about specifically is I went to your website. I did my homework and looked around, and I'm like, wow, this thing's robust. You can like book appointments on here. You can do all these neat things, and you ain't even got to talk to anybody. It's, I loved that. You can Zoom on there, as we talked about. You also have a great Facebook page. I pulled up your Facebook. You've got a lot of awesome tips on there. How beneficial has like social media been to Jayco Solar and what y'all do?
So because we don't rely on like the door-to-door sales, it's typically word of mouth, or find us on Google, or sometimes we'll do like a Facebook ad to try and bring in some leads. But, we're looking for customers who are interested and ready in, maybe they're not ready to sign the deal, but they're ready to learn. They're ready to know more about what we have to offer. And so I would say social media and the website has been beneficial. Like we want to have our brand out there, and I want people to know that we're here and we're here to stay. We're not just like a pop-up shop that's going to be here for a couple of years and disappear. Like, we live here, we raise our kids here. So
you're invested in the community.
We're invested. Yes. And, we have kids in elementary school, middle school, like we're going to be here through it all. So Facebook and Instagram, we're trying to have a presence so that people can find us there. But ultimately, even though you can meet with us on Zoom, if you're here in Livingston Parish, we're, between 15 to 30 minutes away and we can meet in person. We can have that face-to-face relationship and we can walk you through the process.
I think that's what kind of separates y'all the most is y'all all have a very good way about you. Jacob, in our first meeting, he made a comment that impressed me, and that was, he said, look, we're not pushy, by any means.
Maybe that's our downfall. We're not pushy.
Well, I don't, I would say not, because what I found y'all to be are people that want to solve a problem and not people that just want to push something on somebody that they may not need. Throughout this entire conversation, Jane has pointed out, well, you may not need this, or you may not be able to put this here. And some people may look at that as something, most people may not say that. They may not offer you that information. You're not going to sell them something they don't need. That's huge. As crazy as that sounds, that's who I want to do business with. I want to do business with someone that is straight up honest with me and tells me how they can help me. And so one thing I'm sure of is that after everybody listens to this, they're going to know that y'all are just good people and you just want to help people, give them alternatives to what they're paying now on their electric bill. Maybe they can save money. Maybe on the other side of that, they can be a little cleaner in the environment and all those sorts of things and get the other benefits of it. But you've done a good job of answering that, making people feel what you feel for it, because it's a passion, right? It's your business. You're making it your livelihood, and you're rocking on that, folks. So good job on that. I hope we answered a lot of the questions. Believe it or not, we've been going 58 minutes. And I got to some of those questions y'all asked. Yeah, we could. But, on this show, one thing we love to do is we like to end it with fun facts and just kind of let people get to know you outside of your business a little bit. So I'm going to ask each of you a fun question, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but you just answer that question. And Jane, we'll start with you.
Okay. I'm nervous. I hate being on the spot.
If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. That was a quick answer, and that is beautiful.
I've been there. I lived there when I was in my 20s for about 4 months for a study abroad. And so I just fell in love with the country. And if I could go anywhere again, it's a big commitment if you're going to fly all the way across the world.
Yeah.
But you can find everything.
How long does it take to fly there?
I can't remember, but it's a
day or something. Yeah.
It's a big commitment. Like going to Australia, it's multiple plane trips. But yeah, you can find everything in that country, and it's beautiful, and the people are wonderful.
Here's a fun fact. While she was in New Zealand, she bungee jumped.
That's true.
Off the
original bridge where it was invented.
Yeah. And got dunked in the river. She seems so calm. She's such a thrill seeker, I promise.
Yeah. I could not see you bungee jumping. Awesome.
I didn't know that story.
See, we find out all kinds of new things on Local Leaders. Brent, if you had a yacht, what would you name it?
I don't know. My
Solar Dreams.
My wife's name is Robin.
There you go.
She's the most talented person I know. So I'm going to put a plug in for my marriage and say Robin.
There you go, Robin. Boy, you earned some brownie points with that one. I'm going to tell you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much.
I set him up for that one, Robin. Jacob, if you could have any superpower.
Superpower. My kids ask me this all the time, and I try to come up with a new, unique thing every time. I'm going to say mind control.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Something nefarious.
That would be, yeah. I always tell people, I'm like, I think, and it sounds bad, but I'm like, I would like the power of invisibility. And they're like, why? You want to be invisible? And I'm like, no, I'm just nosy. I'd want to go nosy at everybody. I host a podcast for a living. Obviously, I'm nosy. I ask questions constantly. Yeah. So it's been fun having y'all on.
Appreciate you.
I've really enjoyed it. I hope y'all out there got as much information as you can stand for now about solar, and then you get thirsty for more. Who wants to shout out the website and the Facebook page? Anybody know it off the top of their head?
Sure. We're jcosolar.com, jcosolar.com, and you can find us on Facebook at JCO Solar.
And we're going to link all of that to the description of this video as well. So if you're driving, you don't have to stop or screenshot or anything. We'll link it all to the video. If you're listening, we're going to link it to the audio versions of this podcast as well. And we want to thank all our sponsors. We couldn't do any of this without all of you. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you love your community, support local business, just like Jayco Solar, and keep leading. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.